Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Artorigold and today I'd like to go over Moira. I think Moira is an excellent choice for somebody looking to climb. I think she's very easy to get an understanding of and she can have a pretty high impact. Moira is one of those independent healers that doesn't really have to worry about flankers as much as other healers do. For example, characters like Ana and Zenyatta can have a pretty rough time against really good tracers or Genjis or maybe Doomfists, But because of Moira's Fade ability, you can really get out of a sticky situation. There is a lot of effectiveness by just using heal orbs on yourself and then being able to fade away and using your right click in combination with your heal orb so you can put out damage and keep yourself alive against any enemies who are trying to kill you. So the first thing I'd like to talk about with Moira is going to be in this first clip. So at the beginning of the game, every Moira should go to the spawn door of the enemy team and just throw a damage orb at them. And you can see here, you get a ton of ult charge. I mean, just take a look at this. I'm already up at 11% and all I did was throw one damage orb. The enemy team has no chance of killing me. I throw the damage orb at the door at a good line of sight, and then I simply use my Fade ability to get away. And there is no chance that the enemy team is going to be able to follow up on me because my Fade ability just makes me too fast. So there can be a pretty different spot to throw your damage orbs at any point in the game, and usually you want to try and throw it directly at the enemy but at an angle to where it's going to bounce off a wall. And bouncing your orbs off a wall is very important for Moira to get more value out of her orbs. And one thing that Moira is very good at is securing the kills. Right after your team gets a lot of damage in or they get maybe a pick or two, you can start being a little bit more aggressive with Moira because you do have that Fade ability to get out of there. Your right click can't be deflected and your orb actually, your orb can be deflected, but it will pass through shields. So if there's an Orisa or a Reinhardt, you can just throw your damage orb through that. But one of the most important things, you can't forget to heal. This is a perfect example right here. In this clip, we'll go over it a little bit. So I was being a little aggressive onto the enemy team in this clip because we were already ahead a few kills. So I know I'm not going to die. I can throw an extra damage orb. I, of course, can just fall back on my Fade. But unfortunately, what happens sometimes when you do this, even though Moira, it's perfectly acceptable to get a little aggressive in these situations, it's not that acceptable if you're doing it as Zenyatta. And as you can see, my Zenyatta goes down pretty quickly. I wasn't even aware that he was pushing with me. I don't think it was a very smart move for him to do it because unlike Moira, Zenyatta is very slow and, he's gonna die unless you really support him out of it. My Ashe is up here being a little too aggressive too. This is one thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you're really aggressive, sometimes your own teammates will be aggressive too. So you need to make sure that you don't stay too long or communicate to your team that you will be backing out soon, so they should be backing out first. Because maybe they just think, oh, he's there, so I'm going to be there too. And in most cases, they will do that and someone will die, and then eventually the enemy team will start pushing you and you might lose a fight just because of that moment or miscommunication, whatever happened. So in this instance, my Zenyatta dies, and what I'd like to go over is even though you can do a really good amount of unavoidable damage to the enemy team and you can secure a lot of kills, you should focus on healing, especially in this case where my Zenyatta is dead, so I am solo healing. So my Orisa is hacked, my whole team is grouped up together, and this is a perfect opportunity for me to throw a healing orb into some walls as well as just holding down left click and keeping everybody alive. One thing that you'll notice is my ult charge. My ult charge starts at about 62% here, and as the clip goes on, you'll notice that healing gives you a ton more ult charge, more than damage ever would. So just left click healing and a heal orb right here will keep everybody alive, and I go up to almost 100% to full pretty instantly, and then I'm able to use my ultimate. And one thing about your ultimate that I'd like to go over is that it's extremely good at killing squishy heroes. As you can see in that clip, I'm able to just completely focus the Genji down. There are a lot of different ways to use your ultimate. You can use your ultimate to secure a kill on a squishy. I think it's best to try and heal and do that at the same time. But if you're able to get like a really nice kill on a backline hero like Zenyatta, Ana, or maybe you can just use it on a Genji because you know that Genji is going to die eventually. You can even see I actually get out of line of sight right here for a brief moment because you can see the Sombra is actually trying to hack me. Right here, you can see the little Sombra animation right here. And because of that, you just wait, hide out of line of sight, and then you can go back in because hacking will stop your ultimate from getting any value. And this right here is kind of where you want the whole enemy team. If the enemy team is stuck like they are right here in this little box, this is a perfect spot for damage orbs. Having a damage orb bounce around in this little room, and the enemy team is going to take all this little damage, and meanwhile my team is kind of focusing on them as well, and you can kind of act as just a small little bit of damage to the enemy team because your damage orb is completely unavoidable unless you have a Zarya bubble, a Genji deflect, or a D.Va who can eat it. D.Va is one of the biggest counters to Moira because she can eat all of your orbs, and that makes you very ineffective. But other than that, your orbs, your damage orb especially, and your heal orb are very powerful abilities, and they should not be underestimated because if those heroes aren't in the equation, then you will get a ton of value as long as you can throw it into enemies and it's able to bounce around at the same time. So as you can see in this clip, the damage orb along with the right click it's just gonna go through here, and I'm gonna easily get a lot of the kills, do a little bit of bagging because I can, and that's where Moira really shines. Not only is she great at keeping herself alive, she's great at keeping her teammates alive through sustained fights, and she can secure kills very easily. So that's some of the things that you should look to do with Moira. If you're playing a healer and you're just getting completely dominated, then Moira is always an excellent choice because you can keep yourself alive with your right click lifesteal, your healing orb, and your fade ability, and you can use your ultimate very aggressively. I actually think that Moira's ultimate is very expendable. I don't believe it has too much of value. It can be great if you can use it on the squishy heroes and secure a kill or two, but at the same time, it can be pretty decent to try and keep your teammates alive, but it's not going to be as effective as abilities such as Transcendence from your Zenyatta or a Lucio beat. Those things are going to provide way more value. So as you can see, as soon as I get my ultimate, I kind of immediately be as aggressive with it as possible, and if you're trying to rank up, if you're, masters and below, this is definitely the way to play Moira. You will get the most value out of Moira by just being as aggro as possible. I mean, I don't want to see you in the enemy backline, but you throw a damage orb, you use your ultimate, you're going to do a ton of damage, the team is going to have to back up, but most importantly, you're going to be able to heal yourself and have increased movement speed whenever you use your ultimate, so it's very easy to chase down any enemies, especially squishies. One thing, you don't ever want to focus tanks with it. It's usually not going to do a whole lot of damage, especially if the tank has armor. However, it can be pretty good for you to heal your team and do damage at the same time with your ultimate, but that doesn't always line up exactly how you want it. Sometimes it's just a little bit hard to pull off depending on the map and the positioning of everybody. One thing about Moira is she works very well with short range people and she can heal everybody on her team up close and personal, right? But she doesn't really work well with characters like Pharah that are really hard to heal, or Winston, Ball, or D.Va because they like to dive and go in really aggressive, and you're not going to be able to, I mean, you could fade in with the people that are diving, but that's not really going to be the most effective or what you really want to do, because then you kind of waste your fade ability. You always want to save your fade ability for moments when you need to get away or escape. It's also very effective at getting out of CC. So for example, if someone is trying to freeze you or graviton you, or maybe someone like Ana hits a nade on you, it can cleanse all of those effects off of you. You can get to safety, and then you can continue to heal. Being aggressive and securing kills is definitely the right play with Moira at lower ranks, and that's definitely how I encourage you to play it. But I think as you start to rank up and as you start to hit maybe masters, mid or high masters, you will have to focus on healing and heal orbs over the damage orbs. It will be more effective to keep your team alive. Ana can technically heal the most, but that's only if she doesn't miss any shots. And of course, in a real game situation, that isn't going to happen. Next best healing is definitely Moira. Moira can put out the most healing per second, and that's what you have to keep in mind when playing Moira. She can be your great pick for just keeping people alive, especially like a Reinhardt and Zarya. You can even go with like a quad tank strategy, and Moira Lucio with 4 tanks is extremely hard to kill. With your heal orb bouncing around on the point and your left click healing, then you're going to get a ton of value from that, and that's definitely you need to keep in mind. Moira is a support hero. At the lower ranks, you can get away with a ton of stuff, right? But as you rank up, I need you to make sure that you keep focusing on healing and keeping your team alive. It is more important. And one big thing to take note, in order to save, and this is kind of a big thing with Moira, if you have someone at full health or they are near full health, like maybe 80% health, it's best to just left click and tap the heal on them, and then let the healing over time effect kind of really just ramp up and you get more value that way. And that way you can save a lot more of your meter or your juice, whatever you want to call it, and then let the healing over time effect kind of take its course, and you'll be able to save a lot more meter, and then you can do a little bit more damage to get it back, and basically it's going to make sure that you don't run out. Running out of meter as Moira is very devastating, and you never want that to happen, because as soon as it does, then everybody in your team is immediately going to just die. Anyways guys, that's all I have for Moira. She's a very strong healer. Make sure to pick her if you're getting a rough time from any of the enemy flankers. Anyways guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.